Hey BC, welcome back to the Personal Oasis. I've got my coffee, and welcome to the Blind Island. Today we are about to review some really great stuff. I don't know if any of you can actually guess what it's going to be, but due to my very Hawaiian shirt, we're going to be looking at today an unknown and kind of unloved group, or should I say genre, and that would be surf rock. My wife and I love surf rock. It's funny that we love it so much since we live here in Wisconsin where it's so cold and drab and dreary, and maybe that's why we love it so much, because when you listen to surf rock, you can't help but feel good. It feels like sunshine on your face, which is really funny because I'm so white and I burn like crazy in the sun. But today I'm going to be reviewing an unknown group. There are so many surf groups that were unknown from this period of time, called the Nep-Tunes, Surfer's Holiday. Just giving you a little bit of a better look there. And I can't wait to talk about this album. I think that it's a real fun record, and let's get started with it. I'm going to give you my initial thoughts and background information. Then we'll get into the review. So, a little background information about the Nep-Tunes. There isn't a lot of it. From what I could gather, they're a group that was from New Jersey, which is funny because most surf rock was coming out of California, but there were a few exceptions on the East Coast and even in the Midwest, which is pretty funny. But yeah, this group came out with just this one album, from my understanding, 1963, and didn't really make much of a splash. They had maybe a local hit, but it wasn't anything to write home about, and they disbanded quickly thereafter. There's not much else that I can tell online. I tried to do a little bit more research, but the trail kind of goes cold. But to tell you a little bit more about surf rock in general, it was that time between, when all the big giant rock artists of the 50s and early 60s were around, but then after Buddy Holly, Richie Valens, and the Big Bopper died, there was kind of a lull in rock music. So a couple of people stepped in to fill the void, like Roy Orbison and Del Shannon, but surf music really captured the nation's imagination. They became fascinated with this new hobby that was out in California, even though it had been around for years and years in Hawaii. And people just started daydreaming of going out west and getting their own suntan and golden hair and taking to the waves. And the music really emulated that undulating feel of the ocean coming back and forth with the reverbed guitars and those wailing saxophones as though they're coming from some far-off cove. It's really great stuff, and yeah, it can be a little cheesy and chintzy, but I think that there's something magical to it. Now, surf rock went out of fashion after the British invasion hit. Once that came, it basically went kaput. Almost as quickly as it arrived, it went away. There were a few groups that kept it alive, like the Beach Boys. Even Jan and Dean continued to score some hits. They're another vocal rock group. But kind of that instrumental surf rock that we're reviewing today, it went the way of the dinosaur until very recently in the late 90s when the ska movement came back into play. People started to rediscover these surf rock groups like the Tornadoes, the Astronauts, and people were fascinated with the music again. And there are a couple of groups that are kind of following in the vein of this with adding a little bit of a modern twist. Messer Chups is a great surf rock group, or even a psychobilly group that I would highly recommend. Even the Cramps, you can hear a little bit of this surf and ghoulish atmosphere to their music. So just a little background information on surf rock in general. Now let's get to my thoughts on this particular album. This record is just pretty much your standard surf rock fare. Rolling Stratocasters, reverbed up to the hilt, and it has the saxophone in there, which really adds a lot. Some of these surf rock groups try to do surf music without sax, and it kind of falls hollow. I think that their guitar work isn't as interesting as some of the others that I have heard, but it's still a solid record. I find this to be very pleasant to listen to, since it's a little bit harder to come across, and that the fact that it's from New Jersey also brings me a lot of joy that it's in my collection. I also like the fact that it's all instrumental. Some of these surf rock groups felt the need to have a couple of vocal tracks on there, and the vocal tracks were really rough. Dick Dale probably has the albums that suffer the worst from that. They're just not singers. They weren't meant to be singing. They're not like groups like Jan and Dean and the Beach Boys, where they have these beautiful harmonies to back them up. They just got into a studio. They're very good musicians, but the studio execs probably came up to them with a big giant cigar and said, "Yeah, see, this vocal stuff is really big, so you better make it work, see?" They probably didn't sound like a 1920s, gang boss, but you get what I'm talking about. So I'm really glad that this is all instrumental, and that just carries this nice, soft mood throughout. I think that I have to take away some points because it does drag in a couple of spots. It seems like they are rather uninventive with creating some new melodies in a few of the songs, but a lot of the songs are usually around 2.5 minutes to begin with, so it doesn't make it seem too turgid. So I would have to give this one probably a 3.5 out of 5. There aren't really any album highlights that I can talk about with this one, because most of the songs are usually just pretty much the same throughout, but that doesn't make it a bad thing. It makes it a very solid record from beginning to end. I don't know where you can pick this up. I know that you can probably go onto Discogs and pick up a copy, but the pricing on this is really disparate. I've seen it go for $10, and I've seen it go for $80, and I have no idea what the price is on this. So I would just check out Discogs, see what you can get it for, and if you see a copy of the Nep-Tunes Surfer's Holiday in your local record shop, pick it up. It's definitely worth having. So what do you guys think? Are you as much into surf rock as we are? Let us know down in the comments below. And I just wanted to say thank you so much for taking the time to come join us here on the Personal Oasis. And I hope you have a great day on your own. Cheers.